Welcome to History Recapped, where we dive into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. Today we're exploring the full story of the Crusades, a series of holy wars that spanned over 2 centuries, transforming Europe and the Middle East forever. From the call to arms by Pope Urban II to the bloody sieges of Jerusalem and the legendary campaigns of Richard the Lionheart and Saladin, this is the definitive story of the Crusades. Let's set the scene in 1095. The Byzantine Empire, once a bastion of Roman power, was under threat. The Seljuk Turks had conquered large swathes of Anatolia, dealing a crushing blow at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071. Facing the erosion of imperial territory, Emperor Alexios I Komnenos sent envoys to the west seeking military assistance to repel the Seljuks. At the Council of Clermont, Pope Urban II delivered one of history's most impactful speeches. He painted a vivid picture of Christian lands desecrated by infidels, calling upon knights and peasants alike to take up the cross and reclaim the Holy Land. The promise of spiritual salvation, remission of sins, ignited a wildfire of religious fervor across Europe. This marked the launch of the First Crusade, 1096-1099. The initial wave was the People's Crusade, led by charismatic preacher Peter the Hermit and Knight Walter Saint-Gevoix. Driven more by zeal than strategy, thousands of untrained peasants and minor nobles set off towards Jerusalem. Their journey ended in tragedy as they were ambushed and annihilated by Turkish forces in Anatolia. The main Crusader armies soon followed, comprising nobles like Godfrey of Bouillon, Raymond IV of Toulouse, Bohemond of Taranto, and Baldwin of Boulogne. They advanced through Byzantine territories with both cooperation and tension. Despite logistical hardships, their resolve was unyielding. In 1097, the Crusaders achieved a crucial victory at Nicaea, reclaiming the city for the Byzantines. They then clashed with Turkish forces at Dorylaeum, employing tactical discipline to secure a decisive victory. The journey to Jerusalem was grueling. The siege of Antioch, 1097 to 1098, became a prolonged battle of attrition. Beset by starvation and betrayal, the Crusaders were on the brink of collapse until a miraculous, or possibly fabricated, discovery of the Holy Lance revitalized their morale. They ultimately captured Antioch and withstood a formidable counter-siege led by Kerboga of Mosul. In 1099, the Crusaders reached Jerusalem. The siege of Jerusalem was a brutal, bloody affair. Ladders and siege towers breached the city's walls after weeks of fighting. What followed was a massacre of the city's Muslim and Jewish population, a dark chapter that still echoes in historical memory. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was established alongside other Crusader states, County of Edessa, Principality of Antioch, and County of Tripoli. However, the Crusaders' control over these territories was fragile, constantly under threat from Muslim powers. The Second Crusade, 1147-1149, arose after the fall of Edessa in 1144, captured by Zengi, Atabeg of Mosul, and Aleppo. This marked the first major Muslim victory and a wake-up call to Europe. The crusade was championed by King Louis VII of France and Emperor Conrad III of Germany. However, poor logistics, internal conflicts, and a disastrous siege of Damascus led to the Crusade's failure. Zengi's son, Nur ad-Din, continued his father's mission, uniting Muslim factions under the banner of jihad. During this period, military orders like the Knights Templar, Hospitallers, and later the Teutonic Knights rose to prominence. These warrior monks not only protected pilgrims, but became key military and political players, managing fortresses and amassing wealth and influence. The tide truly shifted with the rise of Saladin, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub. Of Kurdish descent, Saladin combined political acumen with military brilliance. By 1171 he had abolished the Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt and declared allegiance to the Sunni Abbasids, further unifying Muslim lands. In 1187, Saladin's forces crushed the Crusader armies at the Battle of Hattin, capturing the True Cross, a revered Christian relic. Following this, he recaptured Jerusalem after a relatively peaceful surrender, in stark contrast to the brutality of 1099. His chivalry and statesmanship earned him admiration even among his Christian foes. The fall of Jerusalem catalyzed the Third Crusade, 1189–1192. Known as the King's Crusade, it brought together Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. Tragically, Barbarossa drowned in the Salef River en route to the Holy Land, which demoralized the German forces. Richard and Philip captured Acre after a bloody siege. However, Philip soon returned to France, leaving Richard to continue the campaign. Despite a brilliant victory at Arsuf, where Richard's leadership shone, retaking Jerusalem proved elusive. Supply issues, strategic stalemates, and Saladin's resilience prevented a full conquest. Richard and Saladin negotiated the Treaty of Jaffa in 1192, which allowed Christian pilgrims safe access to Jerusalem, though it remained under Muslim control. Despite failing to retake the Holy City, Richard's exploits cemented his legend as a chivalric hero. The Fourth Crusade, 1202–1204, deviated drastically from its religious purpose. Strapped for funds and manipulated by Venetian interests, the Crusaders attacked the Christian city of Zara and eventually sacked Constantinople. The fall of Constantinople to fellow Christians shocked the world, severely weakening the Byzantine Empire and shifting the Crusades' focus away from the Holy Land. Subsequent Crusades, including the Fifth Crusade, 1217–1221, aimed at Egypt, and the Sixth Crusade, 1228–1229, led by Frederick II, saw mixed results. Frederick's diplomacy achieved a temporary handover of Jerusalem without bloodshed, but the city was retaken by Muslims shortly after. The Seventh Crusade, 1248–1254, and Eighth Crusade, 1270, both led by Louis XI of France, were marked by logistical failures and disease. Louis was captured in Egypt during the Seventh Crusade, and the Eighth, aimed at Tunis, ended in his death. By 1291, the Crusader city of Acre fell to the Mamluks, marking the end of Crusader presence in the Levant. The Mamluks, skilled slave soldiers who had risen to power in Egypt, became the dominant force in the region, effectively quelling future crusading ambitions. The Crusades left an indelible legacy. Culturally, they accelerated East-West exchanges, introducing Europe to advanced Islamic sciences, medicine, philosophy, and trade goods like spices and silk. The Italian maritime republics, Venice, Genoa, Pisa, prospered, establishing lucrative trade networks that would eventually fuel the Renaissance. Religiously, the Crusades deepened the rift between Christianity and Islam, sowing seeds of mistrust and animosity that would echo for centuries. Relations between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches were also permanently damaged, especially after the sack of Constantinople. Militarily, the Crusades evolved siege warfare, introduced new fortification designs, and spread the use of crossbows and composite bows. Orders like the Knights Templar developed banking systems to fund their missions, inadvertently laying the groundwork for modern financial institutions. The crusading ideal didn't die with Acre. Subsequent crusades were launched in Europe against heretics, like the Albigensian Crusade in southern France, and in the Baltic region against pagan tribes led by the Teutonic Knights. The romanticized image of the Crusader, noble, pious, and heroic, was often far removed from the brutal realities of greed, betrayal, and political intrigue that defined many of these campaigns. Yet the Crusades remain a powerful chapter in human history, a vivid example of how faith, power, and ambition can intertwine to create both glory and tragedy. Thank you for watching History Recapped. If you found this deep dive into the Crusades fascinating, Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let us know which historic conflict should we cover next. Until next time, keep learning and keep history alive.